Good morning, good morning. Hello and welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will officially get started in a moment. As you're joining, we would love it if you can type your name, county or organization, and role in the chat. That prompt has just been shared in the chat. Again, thank you so much for being here. We are very excited to see such a strong turnout. We would love to know who's in the room. So if you're able to share that information in the chat, please do. Your name, county, organization, role in the teaming and assessment process. Got some of those responses coming in. Thank you so much. All kinds of folks here this morning. See Fresno, Riverside County, North Fork Rancheria, Orange County, the Office of Tribal Affairs, folks with Cal-AIM, Fresno, the CDSS, Siskiyou County, all over the place. What a pleasure to have you joining us this morning. Kern County, we've got a behavioral health clinician, social workers, facilitators. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, well, we're going to officially kick this off. So you are here for the Family Maintenance, Child and Family Teams All County Letter Release webinar. My name is Emma World Peace Black. I'm an academic coordinator with the UC Davis Northern Training Academy. And I'm very excited to be joined today with some excellent co-panelists. Dana Androsky is an analyst with the California Department of Social Services. Daniel Kim, also an analyst with the California Department of Social Services. And we are so excited and honored to also be joined by Simranit Sahota. Simran, who is a senior social worker and child and family team facilitator with the Shasta County Children's Services Facilitation Unit. What will we be talking about today? Participants will be able to articulate the purpose of All County Letter 2508 and the implementation of child and family teams when a youth receives family maintenance services. Participants will be able to explain family maintenance, child and family team timeline and team composition guidelines. Participants will be able to describe applications for the family maintenance, child and family team meeting, including but not limited to safety planning, resource identification, and other supports. Participants will be able to verbalize how the caregiver domains and the integrated practice child and adolescent needs and strengths, aka IPCANs, can help guide action planning that supports the youth remaining in the home when possible. This is our agenda for what we're going to be covering between now and 10:30 this morning. A welcome and overview, which is happening right now. We'll talk about the background and the rationale for this new policy and All County Letter, provide an overview of implementation guidelines, discuss practices that support and enhance family maintenance, child and family teams, the use of the IPCANs and caregiver engagement as a key strategy in FM cases. We're again so excited that you'll get to hear about Shasta County's use of family maintenance, child and family teams from the perspective of an amazing facilitator. We'll talk about considerations for supporting families when transitioning to close a case, and we will announce some training opportunities, and there will be time for questions. We ask that you use the Q&A feature on your screen for asking questions. We will hold to answer questions until we cover the majority of content, with the acknowledgement that a question that you are asking may be something that we are right about to cover. I'll pass it to you, Dana.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Emma, and super excited to be here and joined by all these wonderful folks. We'll go ahead and start by providing a brief introduction to All County Letter 2508. And I'll go to the next slide, please. So All County Letter 2508 was released on January 31st, 2025. This letter describes the purpose, background, and guidance for the implementation of child and family teams, also known as CFTs, for youth who receive family maintenance, also known as FM services, all of which we will discuss during this webinar. In addition, we will be sharing some experiences counties have had with family maintenance, child and family teams. And next slide, please.
All right, so we're going to engage you for a moment with a Mentimeter question, which is, what is an all-county letter? So there is a link shared in the chat that will take you to this Mentimeter, and we would love to see some responses. What comes up for you when you hear this term, all-county letter? Seeing some words coming in here: guidance, mandate, policy, guidelines, rules, important, new directives, process, changes, requirement, update, state regulation. Yes, absolutely. Let's see, systems, rules, countywide, things you might have to do in your practice. Absolutely. Wait for a couple more to come in here. Really seeing that policy, guidance, guidelines, timelines are predominant themes. Wonderful. Right. So, Dana, what is an all-county letter? Or sorry, tell me a little bit more.
No, I think folks were right on the money. And for the most part, our formal definition is that an all-county letter directs counties regarding mandated changes in policy and procedures and statewide requirements. And it may also include best practices. You may have also seen an all-county information notice, and that provides counties with non-mandatory general or instructional information and often includes best practice information and may reference mandates.
Well, it looks like our audience really nailed it on getting a lot of that correct in this word cloud. So thank you so much.
Ooh, great. Awesome. So we kind of began with an introduction of this ACL, or All County Letter, with a few terms that you may or may not have been familiar with. So now that we have that definition of All County Letter, or ACL, we'll talk about some other background terms. Next slide, please. So what is family maintenance? When a youth receives family maintenance services, child welfare practitioners offer protection of the youth and provision of available services without removing the youth from the home, which is considered the least restrictive setting. As such, family maintenance services must be an option to consider before making the decision to remove the youth from their families. It is thought that family maintenance further actualizes the goal under federal and state law of placing youth in the least restrictive setting possible while also ensuring their protection. Family maintenance services may be voluntary or they may be court ordered. Voluntary family maintenance, or VFM services, are the provision of non-court ordered, time-limited protective services to family whose children are in potential danger of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. When the child can remain safely in the home and the family is willing to accept services and engage in corrective action. The agreement for voluntary services may be initiated by the county child welfare agency or by the court. The parent, guardian, or Indian custodian must not be coerced into agreeing to VFM services by threats of removing the children from the home if they do not engage in those services. Court FM services are provided to families whose children have been adjudicated a dependent of the court, where the court has ordered the county welfare department to supervise the family while the child remains in the home. In these cases, the court has made a determination that the children can remain safely in the home with the provision of services. Such services are appropriate when it is determined that the child does not need to be removed from the custody of any parent or legal guardian. Court FM services may also be provided when a child previously placed in out-of-home care is reunified with a parent or guardian, and continued supervision is deemed necessary so they can continue to receive some support from the agency. Some other background terms that you may or may not be familiar with that will be helpful to know for context are the Child and Family Team, or CFT, and the Integrated Practice Child and Adolescent Needs or Strengths, or IPCANs. So the Child and Family Team is a group of people that includes the youth, child or non-minor dependent family members, and in the case of an Indian child, the tribal representative. The mechanism of the Child and Family Team is to inform the case plan and service planning collaboratively with the youth and family at the center so that different folks can offer their unique expertise to help provide the best array of services available to meet the youth and family's unique needs and strengths. The IPCANs that we'll be referring to throughout this presentation is a multi-purpose tool that supports decision-making, including level of care and service planning, which allows for the monitoring of outcomes. The IPCANs has traditionally been used for all child welfare cases since implementation began in 2018. So it has been a requirement in family maintenance cases when a youth remains with the family. However, child and family teams in family maintenance cases have been implemented at the county's discretion, depending on available funding and resources. So there's a little bit of variance between the counties. Next slide, please. So why are CFTs being implemented statewide for youth who receive family maintenance services? And what do we hope to see with this implementation? So the implementation of CFTs for youth with FM status ensures equitable access to services and supports and parity of care for all youth involved in child welfare, regardless of where they are placed. Child welfare services are intended to prevent the unnecessary separation of children from their families by identifying family problems, assisting families in resolving their problems, and preventing the breakup of the family where the prevention of child removal is desirable and possible. Child welfare services are further best provided in a framework that integrates service planning and delivery among multiple service systems, including the mental health system, using a team-based approach, such as the Child and Family Team. Done to fidelity, CFTs in FM cases will help families keep the youth at home, in school, and away from youth corrections involvement, and support the consistent integration of the IPCANs. The alignment between systems is key to encourage family-centered understanding and healing, prevention of harm, safety and well-being, stability, and increased care coordination for all child welfare-involved families. Now I will go ahead and pass it on to Daniel Kim. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us, who will share a bit about the background to this implementation and FM CFT guidelines.
Thank you, Dana. Just want to apologize in advance. I've been having some tech issues with Zoom over these past couple of days. So if I cut in and out, do apologize for that. But yes, more background around teaming when a youth receives FM services, and why was funding provided to implement CFTs when a youth receives FM services. what does teaming look like when a youth receives FM services? So, of the counties surveyed, 45 of 48 surveyed counties provided CFTs to FM cases, and many of these counties actually have used FM CFTs with positive outcomes in safety and permanency. Some of the readiness funds were made available to counties in the county fiscal letter 23/2464, and FMCFT meeting activity funds were made available in the CFL 24/2561. Next slide, please. So why was funding provided to implement CFTs when a youth receives FM services? Also, what is BH Connect and how does BH Connect relate to FMCFTs? So FMCFTs were funded through the Department of Social Services to facilitate care coordination to support the implementation of BH Connect. There is a lot of information about BH Connect that we won't be going into today, just for the purposes of this presentation. However, we will be putting in some resources and information in the chat for you all just to view, which are very helpful in case you are not familiar with BH Connect, or maybe if you already are. And something we also wanted to highlight that children and youth involved in child welfare is a focus for many of the BH Connect initiatives that you'll see within the resources shared. Next slide, please. So here we'll be kind of going into the nitty-gritty of the ACL 2508, some of the detailed implementation guidance here in this letter. This includes FMCFD timelines, team composition, facilitation, preparation, documentation and confidentiality, information sharing, and finally claiming funds for FMCFT meetings. Next slide, please. So with the FMCFT timelines, these mirror existing CFT meetings and IPCAN's timelines. The initial CFT meeting takes place within 60 days of case opening, or 30 days when it is known or there's reason to know a child is an Indian child. And then ongoing FMCFT meetings take place every 6 months thereafter. If the youth is receiving intensive care coordination or intensive home-based services, the CFT meeting should take place every 90 days. Next slide, please. Team composition. So the composition of the team is driven by the child and family members' preferences when it comes to CFTs. As many of you know, aside from the family and child, others included in the team includes the case carrying social worker, mental health provider, the tribal representative, and regional center representative, all when applicable. Other supports for the family could be extended family, parent-youth partners, friends, public health, medical, or educational specialists. And a new role that you may start seeing is the enhanced care management lead care manager through the efforts of CalAIM and a lot of the Medi-Cal reform that's happening. FMCFTs also should include persons with natural supportive relationships with the child and family so that once the family support system will continue to exist even after formal services are completed with the agency and things like that. It is also important to explain how the inclusion of others can directly support the family members to achieve their goals of supporting the child remaining in the home safely. Next slide, please. I think we have a Mentimeter here actually, so I'll go ahead and pass it back to Emma.
Yeah, so we would love to get some input from you all. If you can again click that link in the chat. Who else do you think could be or might be a helpful member of the child and family team in family maintenance cases? Anyone else from your professional or lived expertise that's a really valuable member of the team? Seeing some answers come in. I see community support, sponsor, tribe, school professionals, youth identified supports, relatives, any close relation, parent partner, tribal social worker, public health nurse, school counselor, church members, parent and partnership, coach, teacher, family friend, natural supports, informal support, tribal representatives, regional center service coordinators, a religious leader, a public health nurse, ed rights holder, CASA, supervisors. I love that someone said supervisors. Yes, yes, yes. Please come to the CFT meeting so we can make decisions. Any individual close to the family, foster ed liaison, youth partner ILP support, a youth's friend, a teacher, family specialist, behavior specialist, a lifelong connection, and any of those natural and informal supports. Absolutely. These are all wonderful ideas. And again, the team composition should be heavily driven by and informed by the family, which is especially important for cases where the child has always remained in the home, and we may actually be having the child and family team meeting in that family's home. We really want to make sure that they are actively partnered in determining who will be a part of the child and family team. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Emma. So when it comes to facilitating the CFT meetings, here's some things to consider. So the first FMCFT meeting is initiated and scheduled by the case carrying worker. Subsequent CFT meetings can be initiated by the youth, the family, or another team member. And counties have the discretion to determine who will facilitate the meeting, and the facilitator must be trained. However, it is strongly recommended that with the CFT meetings that it is facilitated by a neutral facilitator. I know sometimes that is not always the case based on county by county. And so these are just kind of things to consider for the FMCFT meeting facilitation. Next slide.
Daniel, it was really quiet. I know you just said that, but if you wouldn't mind going back through that so we can hear you, that'd be great.
Yeah. So the last section about counties having the discretion to determine who will facilitate the meeting, and the facilitator must be trained. However, it is strongly recommended that the CFT meeting be facilitated by a neutral facilitator. Sorry about that, everyone. Yes, preparation is key with an exclamation for a successful meeting with the family and everyone else involved. So all FMCFT members should be included in the scheduling process of the meeting. The youth and family should know who will be at the meeting, what's going to be discussed, their wishes about who they would like to be invited should be respected and continually sought. Also, just a quick note, it is also crucial to include any tribal representatives when a child is known, or there is reason to know a child is an Indian child to get those tribes involved. It is also important that the youth and family, when the child is known or there is introduced the IP cans prior to discussing it at the meeting. And again, there will be more discussion that Dana will go over within the webinar about the IP cans. And the youth and caregivers perspective should inform the draft IP cans. Social workers and CFT facilitators must ensure that a valid ROI form release of information is completed before or at the beginning of the meeting for information to be shared effectively by and with the team. And meetings can be segmented so that individuals who don't have permission to discuss certain topics within the meeting are only present for part of that meeting. Next slide, please. Now the fun stuff. When it comes to documentation and confidentiality, here are some things to know here as well. The FMCFT meeting should be entered in both the case plan notebook and the contact notebook of CWS CMS. If the CFT meeting included the completion of the IP cans, and the IP cans is required to be entered into CARES Live. Additional guidance for entering IP cans into CARES Live will be issued in the coming months, and this particular guidance will include timeline requirements for placing agencies to enter the IP cans into CARES Live, resources to support placing agencies access and use CARES Live for the purposes of entering the IP cans, and finally, training opportunities to support placing agencies to gain access to CARES Live and navigate the program. And further guidance and clarification on sharing information and confidentiality requirements in the CFT meetings is also available in ACL 2273. Next slide, please. Sharing information. So counties and agencies may use or develop their own release of information forms or utilize some of the examples provided in CDSS and DHCS, which is the Department of Healthcare Services guidance letters. Members of the CFT must be identified on valid release of information forms. And if there is a change in membership of the CFT, where the release of information must be updated or new ROI completed to include the new team member and organization. Again, for additional questions on confidentiality policy for voluntary cases, we do recommend to reach out to your county council, as data sharing and sharing information can be very nuanced. And so next slide, please. And then claiming funds for FMCFT meeting. So FMCFT meetings have different codes for claiming than the continuum of care or placement CFT meetings. The CCR CFTs are for foster youth, and the FMCFTs are for youth who live with their parents or legal guardian, as many of you know. Both work towards similar goals, just in different environments. And if you have more specific questions around the claiming, we do have an email here on this slide, and I do believe we will be going through the process and uh, internally to make sure we can share some of these slides later on in case you need that email again. Next slide, please. And then I believe this is my last slide. Dana will be kind of going over some of the practices that support and enhance the FMCFTs throughout this webinar. And some of that includes, the service planning, the IP cans, safety planning, the natural supports, the peer mentorship, and the aftercare planning. So Dana, back to you.
Thanks so much, Daniel, and great conversation in the chat. Really appreciate it. As some folks noted, yes, the tribal representative is indeed a required member of the CFT, and there's a lot of information we have in both the CFT Tribal Engagement Guide, which I can share a little bit later in the chat. And there's also some guidance within the letter itself with engaging with the tribe for an FMCFT meeting. So there's like a lot of information and resources that we'd love to share with you about that. I know we are kind of touching on it, in like in the webinar format. So the next thing I also heard in the chat, which we are going to be talking about now, is the IP cans. So in this section, we'll be discussing the IP cans, which, as we mentioned before, is the integrated practice. That's that multi-purpose tool that the CFT uses to guide conversation, supports, and decision-making, including level of care and service planning, and helps to monitor the outcome of services. So it's a tool. I kind of linked the website in the chat that we have for CDSS for the CANS tool. And so in particular, in this section, we'll be looking at the IP cans with the caregiver domains because that can be really helpful in FM circumstances. Next slide, please. So because the youth remain in the home of origin when receiving FM services, the caregiver is typically considered the parents, legal guardians, or legal guardians, or the Indian custodian. In other circumstances, caregivers may include pre-post adoptive parents, parents who live elsewhere, resource parents, aunts, uncles, siblings, or grandparents. So within the IP cans document, the rating sheet, you can rate up to 4 caregivers. And the caregiver who is identified in the case plan is the one who is required to be rated within the IP cans. So why is it important to identify supports? So as I mentioned, the IP cans can be used to help guide service planning. And that isn't just for the youth. It's also for parents who may need supports. And why is it important to identify these supports through the IP cans and FMCFT meetings? For one, the IP cans is required to be completed collaboratively and to inform the family case plan. The IP cans identifies needs of parents and caregivers, which are interconnected with the needs of their children. As we mentioned, the IP cans can be used by the FMCFT to identify ways to support the caregivers so the youth can remain in the home and thrive. So family maintenance, CFT meetings, and interaction between CFT members between meetings are both excellent opportunities to engage the caregivers, including parents, in the IP cans. This input can be gathered through general questions about how the caregiver and youth are doing, what the caregiver notices or observes, and then engaging in deeper conversation when information is shared to explore how it impacts the child, youth, or family functioning, or discussion of strengths that can be used in planning. So this slide kind of provides a few examples where the CANS completer notes needs and strengths of the youth and family. So in this first example, it sounds like the CANS completer is noting that they heard something about Nevia feeling somewhat anxious. So one example of a good way to respond to hearing something like that is, I heard you say Nivea is a very anxious kid. Can you tell me more about what that looks like? How often does she appear anxious, and how does it impact you or others? And so there's an in-depth training on completion of the IP cans, but that kind of information, that conversation can further inform the completion of the cans to see what Nivea might need to help with her anxiety. Another example where the CANS completer is noting somewhere where the youth has some strengths. So Orion makes friends easily. That's wonderful. Please tell me about his friends. How long has he known them? And do they spend a lot of time together? And so again, this can kind of inform, what can we do to support Orion, and what strengths might the caregiver have too that can help facilitate the leverage of that strengths. So maybe there's an extracurricular activity where Orion has opportunity to engage with his friends or his peer supports. And that can kind of be used to determine like service planning decisions. Another example. So in this next example, we're noting a concern with mental health for the caregiver. And so the CANS completer is kind of opening up that conversation and letting the caregiver provide input into, what kind of supports might be helpful to improve mental health. So the CANS completer says, you shared that child welfare opened a case due to concerns about your mental health. And please tell me more about that. And so that's kind of open-ended, and it gives the caregiver room and space to kind of talk a little bit more about what they would find supportive, which can be, very variable person to person. Next slide, please. So some tips on approaching caregiver needs helpfully when completing the IP cans. So people participating in completion of the IP cans and FM cases should normalize as best as we can caregiver needs non-judgmentally, focus on the impact of needs on the provision of care, and also celebrate strengths identified. It is important to note that the IP cans is not a risk assessment tool and should not be used to determine if a child should return or remain in the home. Next slide, please. So, how can the information we gather about caregiver needs and strengths inform planning, including case planning? Identification and resolution of the caregiver's needs may enable the youth to remain in the home. Caregivers may need housing or other financial support, help with a medical or behavioral health issue, or other resolvable issue that can help them be able to care for a youth. Caregiver needs can help guide what services and supports are needed. In turn, the services for the youth can be filtered through caregiver strengths. Practitioners can use the IP cans to encourage caregivers to engage in conversations about how they can best be supported by the agency. And the IP cans can be used as a tool to discuss whether offered services are effective and to identify possible service and support gaps for the agency and CFT to support in the meeting. And so here we also want to flag that while of course it is very important to support parents and family maintenance, children and youth are still at the center. So in FM cases, we can sometimes become overly focused on the parents. And it is important to structure family interactions in ways that support rapport building and maintaining a working relationship with the family. For the youth, some things we can do to support them is that before interactions, we can set the stage and build psychological safety. We can demonstrate that we value the importance of preserving family maintenance while maintaining child safety. It is key that the practitioner maintain consistent contact. The relationship will fray if there's a long period between conversations and contacts. During interactions, we can ensure the child knows why these interactions are important, what's in it for the child, and why are they important. We can inquire about what they hope to accomplish during this interaction and ask for feedback. After interactions, we can evaluate the interaction and identify areas of strength and improvement for next conversations with the child. And of course, it's always helpful to check in and follow up on agreed upon tasks. Next, we are going to hand it over to Simran Reed, a senior social worker and CFT facilitator for Shasta County Children's Services, to share her profound experiences with CFTs in family maintenance cases.
Thank you so much, Dana. All right. Hello, everyone. So like Dana said, my name is Simran, and I am a social worker with Shasta County. I've been facilitating CFTs for about 3 years now. And just to kind of give everyone a rundown of where Shasta County is, in case any of you don't know, Shasta County is located up north in California. It's about 2 hours up north of Sacramento. We have about 180,000 residents in Shasta County. And then just for some, information on our agency, we have a total of 864 assignments in Shasta County with child welfare. 339 of those assignments are with our investigation unit, and then 62 of the assignments are family maintenance cases. So just to kind of give an idea of where things are at for us. So today I'll just be talking about some tips and personal experiences I've had facilitating CFTs, and really just focusing in on how our family maintenance CFTs work over here in Shasta County. All right. And just to give you guys an idea, so in our county, we do have a facilitation unit. There's 3 of us that are facilitators here, so I'm one of them. And then we have one office assistant that handles our scheduling. So I'll just be giving an overview of what the structure looks like over here, as well as our goals and outcomes that we've seen. All right, so as far as structure goes, so Shasta County is committed to ensuring there is increased engagement, collaboration, and support in our CFT meetings, especially once the case reaches family maintenance. When families reach this point in their case, we hope that the team has already built a connection and strong rapport to come together and discuss next steps towards having a smooth transition. So a lot of the cases that I facilitate here they don't immediately open up as family maintenance cases. What we see a lot in Shasta County is that a case will open up as a family reunification case, and as the parents progress through the case, they make behavioral changes, we'll start transitioning, and then focusing in the CFTs on how that transition is going to look into family maintenance. So once the children are placed with their parents, the focus of our meetings is ensuring the children can remain safely in their home. The ultimate goal is to establish support, promote stability, and prepare the family for successful case closure. So in Shasta County, we hold a pre-planning CFT to iron out all of the details prior to the move and to ensure the team is on the same page. In those meetings, I focus on facilitating collaboration among the key parties to ensure everyone's input is heard and considered as decisions are made. So parents are encouraged to ask questions, share any barriers, and establish a plan that works best for their family. And the youth are encouraged to advocate for their needs so that their voices are amplified in the process. When ICWA applies in our cases, the tribal representatives are given the platform to guide the planning around the transition and the recommendations. As a facilitator, my goal is to remain neutral while guiding the plan to ensure the parents are prepared, the children's needs are addressed, and the agency's expectations are met to move forward with the recommendation. I try my best to be observant of any barriers, gaps in services, or needs around support to ensure there are next steps in place before the recommendation is addressed. Even during CFTs earlier in the case, I start mentioning family maintenance as a future goal to get the team thinking about what the children and the parents will need to successfully transition into family maintenance later. So our CFT unit invites all key parties requested by the agency and the family, and those individuals come together to ask questions and share their viewpoints related to the children's safety, their permanency, and their well-being. As a facilitator, my goal is to guide engagement and teaming with the overall focus being on decisions that are in the children's best interest. So, for example, I encourage discussion between the parents and the caregivers regarding the children's routines to ensure there is consistency in their schedules after the move. I give time to school personnel in the Office of Education, especially if there's a possibility of a school change. So consistency and stability for the children is a significant focus in family maintenance CFTs. Oftentimes, certain parties will advocate for a child to remain at their school, for example, or delay a change until the end of the school year to limit unnecessary or abrupt transitions. The same goes for transitions around medical, dental, and mental health services to ensure continuity of care for the children's needs. So once family maintenance is decided by the agency in the court, the children are placed in their parents' care, and Shasta County ensures a CFT is held within 30 days to discuss how the family is doing after that change. This gives the team a chance to check in and ensure all steps were followed from the last CFT, and that if there are any additional needs, those can get addressed within a timely manner. CFT meetings then continue to be held until case closure to ensure parents are maintaining safety and stability, accessing their support networks, and meeting the children's needs. Sometimes concerns can arise that warrant a safety plan, which then gets created in a CFT meeting with a collaborative approach. Unfortunately, there are circumstances that can warrant removal of the children again, but the hope is to successfully plan around those risks and any dangers before something like that can happen. As a facilitator, I highlight strengths while also creating a safe, comfortable space to address worries, so the hope is to mitigate and address any risks as they are mentioned. I have personally facilitated many more CFTs in which family maintenance led to successful reunification and case closure versus removal and placement of the children in care. And then I did mention the safety planning. We will be talking about that later on, and I'll just be sharing how I, as a facilitator, help guide that planning process. As far as our outcomes look, so as a result of family maintenance CFTs in Shasta County, the team remains involved in a collaborative decision-making process for the children and parents. I have seen amazing outcomes allowing for great safety, less disruptions, supportive transitions, and smoother adjustments to allow the family to successfully remain together. The parents and children continue to feel supported before the agency completely steps out of their lives as a result of these CFTs, which then allows for greater accountability and lasting support before case closure. Next slide, please. All right, so we're going to be talking about our safety planning. So as far as safety plannings go, safety planning during family maintenance CFTs allows the team to address safety threats with clear action steps to help the children remain in the home. As a facilitator, I emphasize that I emphasize the importance of the family giving their input and collaborating, as opposed to just sitting there and being told what to do. So buy-in from all parties and agreement on the action steps are pivotal aspects for a plan to actually work. Whenever it comes to our safety planning CFTs, I always pre-meet with the case carrying social worker to get a clear understanding of what the safety threats are and kind of what we want to see come out of those plans. In the meeting, I then allow the children and the parents to start off the conversation around the concerns if they feel comfortable. If they would prefer to have the social worker start, we move forward like that. I found that allowing the families to share their concerns first when they are comfortable aids the collaboration process because their perspectives are heard from the very start. Then I give time to the social worker to clarify what the agency's concerns are, and if the tribe or other family members are involved, they are also given an equal platform to share their concerns. Once there is clarity around the safety concerns, I condense everyone's thoughts to create a risk statement that focuses on the harm and danger voiced in the meeting. Once a risk statement is established, I utilize a strength-based approach to establish a shared safety goal and clear action steps with timelines assigned to each involved party. So throughout our safety planning meetings, I ensure that there's clarity and specific actions for the involved parties to make the plan as strong as possible. We always want to ensure that there is agreement when it comes to these safety plans. So just throughout the meeting, just checking in, making sure that everyone's following along. And if there are any concerns or things that were misinterpreted, I like to make sure that that's clarified before we solidify the plan. So I like to make adjustments if needed around the language, wording, and actions while still maintaining a focus on addressing the overall safety threats. One major focus of safety planning CFTs is support and accountability in following the plan. That is where my role as a facilitator comes in to encourage the family to identify which supports they can use and how they can access them. I then give each support person a chance to share how they can help and how often they check in to support the plan's lasting success. At the end of the meeting, I review the plan for the team and ensure there is a final agreement. I encourage transparency and open communication throughout the meetings while acknowledging the hardships and commending the family for their strengths and willingness to engage with our agency. Next slide, please. So our challenges and benefits. So when a case is in family maintenance, the parents oftentimes feel a sense of relief, comfort, and stability knowing that their children are in their care at that point. However, that status can sometimes deter parents from asking for help and voicing their struggles due to perceived judgment and fear of removal. As a facilitator, I regularly remind the parents that the team is present to support them in addressing any concerns, barriers, or challenges. So it's actually a strength to ask for help. CFTs can be intimidating due to the number of individuals present and the amount of topics that get addressed. So creating a safe space for our parents and children to open up is critical when we are engaging in this process. Reminders and encouragement around asking for help can assist families in overcoming their fears, which then allows concerns to be addressed as soon as possible. Once a case reaches family maintenance, one of the main emphasis on our CFTs is the establishment of a natural support network. The agency wants to ensure parents have access to support once dependency is terminated and we step out of their lives. So the goal is to see friends, family members, and community partners coming into our meetings and demonstrating their ability to help the family. I have seen some families struggle to bring in supports for various reasons, and those can look like geographic location, broken family ties, and like social anxiety, for example. As a facilitator, I regularly encourage our parents to search for supports, strengthen their ties, and involve safe people in their lives to have a solid network. In Shasta County, we actually have a peer support program, and we'll also be talking about that a little bit later on. And it's an amazing program that consists of individuals with lived experiences that can help our families build a solid support network in our family maintenance CFTs. Another challenge that gets addressed in our family maintenance CFTs is the lack of housing resources in Shasta County. I have facilitated numerous CFTs in which the parents were recognized for their ability to safely care for their children, but they lacked housing to allow the children to be placed back in their care. There are numerous resources to address other safety concerns related to substance use disorders, mental health, parenting education, and behavioral support, yet there is a significant barrier in our county related to housing. This matter oftentimes gets brought up in our CFTs, and as a facilitator, my goal is to help guide that discussion around the gaps, resources, and available options to address the concerns. I guide the team in connecting the parents to any available resources, funding, and community partners that can navigate the housing system, but the lack of funding and options here definitely makes those conversations a little more difficult to have. Despite those challenges that arrive in our family maintenance meetings, I have facilitated many more positive meetings once the case has reached this status. I see more desire to collaborate from the families and a greater sense of trust between the families and the agency. That aids the teaming process around decision making and really just helps the family feel supported at this point in their case. Families have the ability to take advantage of agency oversight and get referred to amazing services and resources as needs arise. Many parents and children express their appreciation to the team at this point because they feel wrapped around with solid support from a variety of providers, and they feel like case closure is definitely a possibility at this point. Next slide, please. All right, so here we have a little bit of a video. Dana, do you want to introduce that?
Sure, happy to. So this is a little on peer support. Let me make sure I can share my screen. Okay, wait one moment.
And while Dana's working on that, so this video is going to be related to the peer support program we have in our county that I had mentioned earlier. And it consists of individuals with lived experiences as parents or youth that were involved in the child welfare system at one point. So these supports have demonstrated a great ability to connect with our parents, connect with our youth, and help them build a natural support network.
Okay, can folks see my screen? And I'm hoping the audio is approved for this. I was like trying to make that, but please let me know if the sound isn't sharing.
We don't hear audio, Dana.
Thank you. Okay, hold on. It was, let's see. Share. Apologies, folks. Let me see if I can fix that. Let's see.
Dana, I can give it a try too. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick because I've got the, you know what's interesting? Okay, let's see. Optimize share sound. Let's see. The share sound doesn't appear available in this view. So let me know if you can hear it on my end too.
That's what happened to me as well. So
did you hear audio or no? No. Okay. We're going to have to table that activity for another time, but the link is in the chat. Unless you happen to know, Sahar, how to get the video sound enabled, but it's a really wonderful video. Oh, I like Jacob's suggestion. We can act it out. No, we're not that great of actors, but it's a really beautiful video that features several parent partners and folks with living expertise in Shasta County, as well as CFT facilitators, managers, and system of care leaders who have really helped to promote and develop a very powerful peer support specialist program that is embedded with and connected to their child and family teaming process and program, as well as other supports for families as well. So there's a person in the meeting who talks about taking a parent to their first NA meeting and really helping them to overcome, Narcotics Anonymous, the fear, worry, and shame that can be associated with going to your first recovery oriented meeting. So they talk about really being folks who are able to walk along with and partner with people who are navigating the child welfare system. So apologies that we couldn't play some clips of the video in today's webinar, but we have shared the link in the chat. Hopefully it is working for you all. And again, we do really recommend taking a moment to watch the entire thing when you have some time. All right, I'm going to go back to screen sharing, and we appreciate your patience as we navigate through some of our technical challenges. So give me just a moment, back into presentation mode. Simran also adding that if there's anything else you would like to say about the peer support program, please feel free to chime in.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emma. Emma did a wonderful job of explaining what our peer support program has to offer. I can give a little bit more information of what their role can assist with in our family maintenance CFTs specifically. So in our meetings, we see peer support sitting with their clients, encouraging them to advocate for themselves, and then just really giving them the support as they need it. As a result, I see our parents and youth feeling seen, feeling heard, and feeling welcomed in our CFT spaces. Sometimes we can see like a power dynamic. Even though I, as a facilitator, have a neutral role in the process, I'm still a social worker, I'm still an agency member, and then the same goes to the assigned social worker. With the peer supports, we definitely see a more balanced feeling of a power dynamic, even though they are employees of the agency, them having lived experiences, the parents and the youth definitely feel more seen. Sometimes that question comes up of like, oh, like, you don't know what I'm going through. How would you know how I feel? And that's where our peer supports can come in and really assist our families in feeling heard in our spaces. I also see parents slowly incorporating natural supports into their meetings as they progress in their FM cases. As a facilitator, I encourage families to extend the CFT invites to their natural support people, especially as we near case closure, to involve their network in the next phase of their healthy, stable family lives. Right. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are some personal tips from just things that I've gained being a facilitator in Shasta County. So one huge thing is, as a facilitator, I remain neutral in my approach while also reminding the team that we have a shared goal, safety and stability for the children. So during our family maintenance CFTs, I think it's incredibly important to remind the team that we are working together alongside each other and collaborating to help the family remain together. Oftentimes, individuals are fearful or distrusting of service providers and government bodies. So being clear that we are gathering to collaborate can really help create a more comfortable space for everyone. Whether we're creating a safety plan or a transition plan, it is crucial to have everyone understand that we are teaming and working together to meet our shared goal. Also, it's really helpful to remind the families that we don't expect linear progress or perfection. By acknowledging that one of our goals is to address challenges and barriers in our meetings, families can feel more comfortable with asking for help and sharing their concerns throughout the process. I engage in neutral advocacy by giving families a platform to have their voices heard in CFTs, and then ensuring that there are concrete resolutions or next steps by the end of the meetings. So being observant of body language, facial expressions, and any discomfort is important as a facilitator, because it is my job to create a comfortable environment and give the families a platform to share how they feel. I also make it really clear that anyone can express their thoughts or questions in a respectful manner, because clarity and transparency are fundamental aspects of collaboration. I want everyone to feel okay with raising any concerns or asking for help, because the purpose of our meetings is to support positive outcomes and connections for our families. So the facilitator is responsible for ensuring each person gets an equal opportunity to speak in the meetings, while also being mindful of what topics need to be covered. When our unit sends out CFT notes and invites, we ensure we are inviting all key players and adding or removing participants as requested by the agency and families. We schedule follow-up meetings at the end of every CFT in Shasta County, and we ensure everyone has the ability to attend in person or virtually on the agreed upon dates and times. We leave the frequency of the meetings up to the parents, and we very rarely wait the full 6 months to meet again. I'd say on average, for most of the cases I facilitate, once a case is in family maintenance, we are checking in about every 2 months, I'd say. Sometimes, like towards the beginning of the transition, parents will request having sooner meetings. So there have been times where I'm facilitating meetings every 3 weeks or every month, really just making sure that they are feeling supported. I find that many families want to meet more often because the meetings present amazing opportunities to be productive as a team and get on the same page. Right. Do we have another slide after that? I did want to share a little bit of just a quick story, just to let you guys know one great experience I had facilitating a family maintenance CFT. So there was one case that I facilitated from the very opening to the closing CFT. And I remember it very clearly because the parent came to their first meeting with all of their life belongings. This parent was homeless, they had everything on them, and they were struggling with mental health and a substance use disorder. They came into their meeting, they were very fearful of the agency, very hesitant around working with our providers, yet they were really vulnerable and just open and honest about what they were struggling with. At the beginning of this process, this parent really did not see the possibility of change or the possibility of them getting their children back in their care. However, just in these CFT meetings, I saw this parent opening up more, getting brighter, gaining sobriety, gaining the tools that they needed to make the behavioral changes to have their children back in their care. And with our CFTs, we scheduled them out for an hour and a half. I'd say this parent was getting CFTs about once every 2 months. We were meeting for an hour. And even though I have a very neutral, limited role in this process, I felt like I built a connection with this parent. And this parent was just very appreciative of all the help that we were giving them, helping them feel comfortable opening up. And we really saw a lot of productivity in these meetings. As the case progressed, the children actually began coming to their meetings as well, and I built a rapport with them by allowing them to amplify their young voices. They were pretty small, but they were very open and honest about their feelings being in this process. So as the parent progressed, as the children progressed, we saw the parent complete all of their case plan services, get increases in visitation, ultimately end up in a trial home visit, and then actually end up in family maintenance in a sober living program. I'll never forget our last CFT. So both of the kids had come to the meeting, and we had a whiteboard in the meeting, and they made these little drawings. One of the children drew a bare tree, just branches, and then a large oak tree, really colorful and beautiful, right next to it. And then the other child drew a little caterpillar and then a giant, beautiful butterfly. And this was our closing CFT when we were about to decide that, family maintenance was done and this parent was ready to be done with the process. And then the children pointed at the drawings, and they pointed at the before picture and the after picture, and they let their parent know, like, this was you in the beginning and now this is you now. So it was a really special moment in our CFTs, and I'll always remember that. And that just reminds me of how important this process is and how great of a connection we can build with our families in our meetings. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Simran. That was amazing. I love to hear about your experiences and your stories. And next we're going to talk about, so Simran talked about closing the case. So next we will discuss how CFTs can help support families when they are transitioning to closing a case. Next slide, please. So transitions should be discussed in a CFT meeting prior to the youth reunifying for the team to develop a supportive transition plan. This can assist in there being no disruptions in the family's services, provide additional resources for the family if needed, and provide a smoother adjustment period. So if a family transitions to family maintenance following reunification, as is often the case, it is beneficial to retain placement CFT members. So if they were in foster care, to maintain those CFT members if possible, rather than replace them with a new team. If continuity of membership is not possible, a meeting with the youth, parents, past members, and the new CFT members or the family maintenance CFT members, also called a warm handoff, you may have heard that term, is helpful to aid transitions. So transition meetings also can be helpful when transitioning between foster family and the family of origin. So transition meetings with both the foster family or resource family and family of origin present, both prior to and after family reunification, can help facilitate the transition. So the CFT facilitator should take into consideration that conflicts may be present between CFT members, including between the resource family and the family of origin. And careful planning should take place to ensure that the emotional safety for the child and positive outcomes, as well as impact on the family, are considered. So there will be some great resources that will be shared in the PowerPoint that will be shared after the presentation. Two that I really recommend are the CFT engagement guide and the tribal engagement guide. Both of those can really help with this particular topic. Next slide, please. Okay. So what are supports that we might consider when closing a case to help a family succeed? So there are several things. Really, it should be centered around the youth family, Indian custodians. We can consider childcare. Many families qualify for free or low-cost programs like Head Start that can offer the family more support once they are reunified. There's financial support, CalFresh and CalWorks, for example. There's the California Home Visiting Program, which supports families in developing positive parenting skills. There's housing support. We'll be talking about a few of these resources a bit later. One of those is Bringing Families Home, which we'll touch on in a bit. and also support for youth with complex needs. So for example, FMCFT members may arrange a warm handoff from family maintenance services to enhanced care management services when appropriate. So enhanced care management, that's kind of a complicated topic, but I'll share a bit about it. So enhanced care management, or ECM, is a statewide Medi-Cal benefit service provided by managed care plans like Kaiser, HealthNet, Blue Shield, etc. A health and social services provider, including an enhanced care management lead care manager, sorry, or a community supports provider, may submit a referral for you to be considered for ECM services if a member has not been identified by the Medi-Cal health plan as eligible for ECM, but meets the requirements, so a youth with complex needs, their provider can submit a referral to the member's health plan. And the health plan is required to have a referral process that is available for health and social service providers. You do not need to be a clinician to refer someone to ECM. The ACM lead care manager, who is kind of like a care coordinator, can be the link within the FMCFT. So they are an optional member of this FMCFT, and they can be a link within the FMCFT to help coordinate additional services for the family and children, both non-clinical or broader clinical care, especially after case closure. We can also consider if a youth may benefit from Medi-Cal for kids and teens. Some of you folks may have known of the early and periodic screening, diagnostic, and treatment benefit, or EPSDT, which is now called Medi-Cal for kids and teens. So by law, the Department of Healthcare Services, or DHCS, is responsible to provide full scope early and periodic screening, diagnostic, and treatment services to Medi-Cal beneficiaries under the age of 21. And these services are covered without cost. Again, we will have some resources, and I see some resources were shared in the chat. So feel free to check those out. Next slide, please. So we may also consider if a youth and family would benefit from Family Urgent Response System, or FURS. So FURS is defined as a coordinated statewide, regional, and county level system designed to provide a collaborative and timely state level phone-based response and county level in-home, in-person mobile response during situations of instability for purposes of preserving the relationship of the caregiver and the child or youth, providing developmentally appropriate relationship conflict management and resolution skill, stabilizing the living situation, mitigating the distress of the caregiver or child or youth, connecting the caregiver and child or youth to the existing array of local services, and promoting a healthy and healing environment for children, youth, and families. FURS is provided to current and former foster youth and caregivers with immediate trauma-informed support when they need it. And FURS is intended to prevent placement disruptions and preserve the relationship between the child or youth and their caregiver, prevent the need for a 911 call or law enforcement involvement, avoid the criminalization of traumatized youth, prevent psychiatric hospitalization and placement into congregate care, promote healing as a family, improve retention of resource parents or foster families, and promote stability for youth and foster care, including non-minor dependents, those under 21. So next slide, please. So the statewide FERS hotline has been operating since March 1st, 2021, and all counties have had a mobile response system in place since July 1st, 2021. Some counties contract for FERS while others use county staff for the program. And Emma shared a link in the chat, which also includes both a phone number and a text line. So it's a great resource. Another great resource is Bringing Families Home. So Simran had touched on some families having housing needs, and that can be a big barrier for families who are looking to reunify and have a stable reunification. So this is a great resource for FMCFT members to refer families to when housing is a critical need. It isn't available in each county, so please confirm availability before referring. And BFH, or Bringing Families Home programs, provide direct housing-related financial assistance, including rental assistance, security deposits, utility payments, moving costs, and hotel or motel vouchers, and housing-related wraparound supportive services, including but not limited to housing navigation, case management, referrals for legal services, and credit repair, plus many other housing supports and resources. So to be eligible for BFH, or Bringing Families Home, an individual family must meet these conditions. So they receive child welfare services at the time of eligibility is determined. They are homeless or are at risk of homelessness, or they're in a living situation that cannot accommodate the child or multiple children in the home. They must voluntarily agree to participate in the program and either be determined as appropriate for reunification of a child to a biological parent or guardian by the County Human Services Agency or tribe handling the case, or the child or children in the family is or are at risk of foster care placement. So very often FM. And the County Human Services Agency or tribe determines that safe and stable housing for the family will prevent the need for the child or children's removal from the parent or guardian. There are a total of 53 county grantees and 25 tribal grantees that are currently participating in the BFH program statewide. BFH is administered at the local county level, so therefore we highly recommend you contacting your local BFH program coordinator. We have a link to who that would be in the PowerPoint presentation that we'll be sharing later. All right. So I know this webinar has had a ton of information, and I know there have been a lot of questions popping up in the chat. Super appreciate the participation and interest. We will be sending out a PDF of the presentation once it has been made accessible and this webinar is recorded. To summarize though, FMCFTs enable enhanced care coordination that support youth remaining in their home of origin. FMCFT timeline and team composition guidelines mirror those of placement CFTs, and FMCFT meetings are ideal venues to support and stabilize families, identify strengths and needs through the IPCANs, and create and update plans. And now I will pass it back to Emma for some training opportunities.
Thank you, Dana. In anticipation of this guidance, we developed a new statewide standardized training called Best Practices for Court Family Maintenance. And I'm going to, whoops, sorry, did not do that well, share a couple of links in the chat. This training is a full day training that is really intended to help folks to understand how to support families during the family maintenance case phase. It is an opportunity for social workers to practice and enhance their skills in family engagement and partnering, assessments for child safety, which we sometimes refer to as harm and risk or danger, using structured decision-making tools such as the reunification and risk reassessment, safety organized practice tools and strategies, teaming and transition planning during the court-supervised family maintenance case phase. To request to attend this training or to have it scheduled, please contact your local regional training academy. And again, a link has been shared in the chat to where you can see the map for regional training academies. And there is also a link shared where you can directly access the curriculum, which is in the California Child Welfare Training Curriculum Content Library. There is effort underway to make these training resources and the CACWIT training system more accessible to community-based organizations and mental health plans. So if you are currently unable to access the curriculum or trainings through CACWIT, we hope to have a grand announcement that will make that much easier soon. And then we now are going to take some questions and work to provide our best answers possible. So again, we've got a few questions that came in already that were answered, some that I just want to state out loud. Lots of questions about receiving the slides and resources shared. Again, we hope to make those available to you all as soon as possible. And I think this is a question for you, Simran. What is your experience facilitating a CFT for an Indian child? Can you provide the group examples of what this looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had great experiences. So in Shasta County, we work quite a bit with Pit River Tribe, and they have amazing representatives that attend the CFT meetings. So one main thing that we've made very clear to our agency social workers is that without a representative from the tribe, we cannot move forward with the CFT. So whenever we're scheduling or communicating prior to the CFT, we always make sure that there is going to be a representative there. And then once we do have the CFT, the tribal representative is definitely given an elevated platform because a lot of the decision making when an Indian child is involved is guided by the tribe. Whether that those decisions are like recommendations or court decisions, will have a lot of input from the tribe. So it's really important to emphasize their voice in that, and not just give all of the attention to the social worker to give agency updates. We also want to hear the updates from the tribe. A lot of times decisions are made by the tribal council. And then we also always want to make sure that we're being mindful of culture. So like we'll talk about tribal events and CFTs and making sure that the child's placement is in their best interest. Oftentimes we want to see the children obviously placed in a home where it is a tribally approved placement. So those are things that we talk about in our CFTs. Another example that comes to mind is one time I did a CFT where the parent was not comfortable coming to our agency office, and they wanted to have the meeting at a tribal office. So we traveled an hour up north to Bernie, and we held the CFT at Pit River Tribe's office. So our county definitely prioritizes making sure that, you know, equal laws are being followed and that the family is being supported, the culture is being addressed, and that decisions are being made in the best interest of the tribe and the children.
Thank you so much, Simran. One more question that I think came in as you were talking. You mentioned kind of like a pre-planning meeting or CFT meeting, and there was a question about who is included in the pre-planning CFT.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we always invite the people that have been attending the prior CFTs. So a lot of times it would be the resource parent, for example, the actual biological parents, And that's like the meeting where we're talking about what the transition is going to look like. So the caregiver will share like, hey, this is what the child's routine was in our home. So this might really benefit you once the child returns back to your home. So we really want to have the caregivers / resource parents there. We of course want to have the bio parents there and the children. And then we like to have school personnel. A lot of times when we're pre-planning, there are possibilities of school changes. So we like to have teachers, principals, or someone from the Office of Education. If the children are connected with mental health services, we like to have their clinician present. They can also aid that pre-planning process. If the parent is residing in like a sober living home, we like to have someone from that agency present. So it's really just all the providers that are working with the parents and the providers that are working with the children that are included in that pre-planning meeting. If the tribe is involved, of course, we would have the representative there, and then the agency social worker.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I attempted to type an answer to the question that came in about FERS for family maintenance, but I don't think my typed answer went through. So FERS, or the Family Urgent Response System, is a program that is available to any current or former foster child or youth through the phase of being a non-minor dependent, which is up to the age of 21. So it is eligible. Families and family maintenance are eligible if the child was at one point, at any point, placed outside of the home. If it's a case where the child was always maintained in the parent, guardian, or caregiver's home, they may not be eligible. But many families who are in family maintenance did at one point have a child who was placed outside of the home, which would make that household eligible to receive family urgent response services. That's especially for the mobile response to de-escalate a crisis and provide support. The statewide hotline will pretty much take as many calls as they receive and attempt to de-escalate and provide support that way. So FERS is a really great program to try to support families who sometimes have youth or children in the home with complex needs, to really ensure that that placement back within the family system does not, again, disrupt, because we know that crises are often likely to occur during the days and times of the week where you might not have the full team and CFT available to support. Then this is kind of a longer question. I'm a CASA for a child placed out of country. I'm thinking maybe county. The resource parent and I and the child's family member would like the social worker to hold the CFT in the resource home with the child actually present for part of the meeting. The social worker newly assigned to the case prefers to hold CFTs by Zoom, so she does not have to drive to the next county. Child's attorney also think it would be beneficial for the child and CFT to hold meetings together. What do you suggest getting the social worker to make the drive to the resource home? Social worker does drive over to the resource home monthly for in-person visits with the contact, but the social worker wants to see child one-on-one that day. Do you have helpful advice on how we can help the social worker? Any thoughts on this, Dana, Simran?
I can speak to that a little bit. So whenever we do have children that are, placed further out, the way we set up our CFTs in Shasta County, all of our CFTs are hybrid meetings. So there's the option to attend virtually or in person. We definitely encourage in-person engagement because it does, allow for more connection. One thing that I've noticed is whenever we do schedule meetings and we have participants traveling further out, we'll try to schedule the CFT on that day, knowing that they are going to be in our location. So if that social worker is making that drive once a month for that monthly contact, I would encourage the social worker to maybe set up the CFT to be after their monthly contact. Like, they can reserve an hour for their monthly contact at 2 p.m. and then hold the CFT at 3 p.m. That way they are getting the one-on-one time with the child for an hour prior to the meeting. And we can actually encourage that. It could help the CFT process, because if the child brings something up to the social worker during that like one-on-one contact, that can also be addressed in the CFT if the child feels comfortable. So that would be my suggestion, is trying to do CFTs on the days that the social worker is making that visit.
I love that suggestion, Simran. I think the thing that I would add too is to not be afraid to tap or reach out to that social worker's supervisor, and just let them know that this is a request that has been made. It's come from multiple sources, and that there seems to be some hesitancy or resistance in making that happen. The key members of the CFT are the youth, their caregivers, the family system. So we really should be centering their preferences when it comes to meeting, scheduling time, and location. So sometimes folks just need a little bit of a reminder about that. But Dana, I saw you come off mute. Anything you wanted to add?
I think those are both great suggestions, and love the idea to meet prior to the meeting. So also just wanted to remind that meetings can be segmented, and also that there is availability when appropriate. So I think in person is preferred, but when needed, you can also have conversations over the phone and over Zoom and things like that. So, but great feedback or great answers, Simran and Emma.
And then we've got a question for families needing assistance and BFH bringing families home services. Can tribes use this program / refer and the family not have any child welfare involvement, but are at risk or have a referral, or do they have to have some sort of case with child welfare? Any thoughts on that, Daniel or Dana?
So the eligibility requirements, they must meet all of the following conditions. And there's a WIC code that was provided by our partners. Let's see, I can go ahead and find, I'm not sure if I have that in the resources right now, but I'm happy to drop the WIC code in the chat. But right now they need to meet the following criteria. So receives child welfare services at the time eligibility is determined. So they would need to have some child welfare involvement. If they do, it does say that there are 25 tribal grantees. So I would imagine that those tribal grantees would be able to make the referral, but there would need to be child welfare services being received.
Thank you so much. And then there's a link again shared in the chat for more information on bringing families home. I believe we have answered all the questions that came in through the chat. Oh, let's see. I see one more. For IP CANS CFT meetings, do we engage families in CANS prior to meeting when completing the CANS tool, or during the CFT meeting, or both? You want to take that one, Dana or Simran?
Or I'll start. I would say both. The IP CANS can be kind of daunting to a lot of families if like they just are introduced to it at the CFT meeting. So it's really helpful to provide like a little bit of context about what the IP CANS tool is, that it's not meant to be a negative or punitive assessment, but rather it's meant to be a tool to kind of inform service planning and bring the best information into those decisions as possible. So we would recommend talking with the family and child and tribe when applicable prior to the CFT meeting, introducing them to the tool, making sure that it's seen or try to reiterate that it's a positive thing rather than something, especially with child welfare involvement, may be fears, that it's going to be used negatively in regards to their case. So you want to emphasize that it's meant to help make positive planning decisions. And feel free to add if I missed anything, Simran or Emma or Daniel.
Yeah, I think you shared it well. And I think that would just be a thing to really emphasize that the CANS is not a risk assessment tool. The structured decision-making risk reassessment tool is what should be used to determine if a child could return home or remain in the home. The CANS is intended to be that collaborative communication tool to help to identify and talk about needs and strengths to then inform a case plan or a plan for the family. So ideally, there is engagement and multiple conversations held to help inform the draft of the CANs. Then there is consensus building in the child and family team meeting that really is often a summary of everything that's already been shared about what's working well, or what are strengths, or what are needs and worries for that family. And then the CANs helps the team to identify what the priorities are that must go into the plan, and to help make sure that the plan is really customized for that family and isn't overwhelming. Anything you'd like to add, Simran?
No, Emma and Dana, I think you guys worded that perfectly. That's exactly what we see in our CFTs, especially with the initial meetings. We'll see the clinician come in, give an overview of what the CANS is, what it entails, and then we'll allow people to ask questions. And then they'll share contact information, and the clinician will let everyone know, like, I'll be following up with the parents, with the caregivers, with the child. And I definitely like to reiterate as a facilitator that the tool isn't meant to diagnose anyone or influence any decisions around return home, and that the emphasis is just making sure the children's and the family's needs are being met. So that's exactly what we do in our meetings.
Awesome. We are at 10:30, so we are going to wrap up, but we would just like to say thank you all so much for coming, and especially big thank you to Simran for her phenomenal wisdom, sharing of expertise, sharing that inspiring story. Thank you so much, Dana and Daniel, for all of your hard work to prepare for presenting this excellent, relevant information. We super appreciate all of you being here. If you have questions, anything further about the All County letter or the new guidance, an email has been shared in the chat, cws.dss.ca.gov. So please go ahead and grab that email if you have additional questions. And again, we will work on getting this PowerPoint fully remediated or accessible, which will include all of the links shared today, and we'll send that out through email as soon as possible. Thank you again so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.